Imagine standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon.
Okay, that's a pretty nice view.
Right. But now I want you to replace all the rock and the earth with fabric. Just mountains of discarded denim, rivers of old polyester sweaters, and, hills of fast fashion t-shirts stretching out as far as the eye can see.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a heavy image.
it really is. And the crazy part is, every single year, millions of tons of clothing end up in landfills that look just like that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty staggering visualization of global waste.
It's overwhelming, honestly. And what makes that canyon of discarded textiles so complex is that it's the direct result of a highly disposable consumer mindset that really peaked back in the early 2020s.
Yeah.
We basically engineered a system that was designed for rapid obsolescence.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today, you and I are going on a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of research, market analyses, and industry white papers that are all focused on upcycling services.
Yes, and it's a topic that is shifting rapidly right now.
Exactly. Our mission today isn't just to gawk at the landfill problem and, make everyone feel guilty. We're exploring how the fashion landscape right here in 2026 is actively fighting this waste crisis.
Right, and doing it in a very different way than before.
Yeah, that's the fascinating part. The industry isn't doing it by wagging a finger and telling you to just buy less stuff. They're doing it by giving old clothes a highly stylish, incredibly customized second life.
Which is, I mean, it's a huge paradigm shift.
Totally. Upcycling isn't just about saving the planet anymore. It is fundamentally changing how we define our own personal style. You start looking at a closet full of clothes you're tired of, and you stop seeing trash. You start seeing raw potential.
That framing is essential. We are seeing a profound market shift right now. We're moving away from that guilt-driven environmentalism of the past decade.
Right, the whole "you're ruining the planet" vibe.
Exactly. And instead, we're moving toward a model driven by sheer creativity, localized engineering, and real structural innovation. But before we can fully grasp how these upcycling services are revolutionizing the industry, we really have to clear up a major misconception.
Oh, for sure. The big one.
Right, because there is a fundamental misunderstanding about what actually happens to our old clothes when we try to, responsibly dispose of them.
Yeah, I think most of us hear the word recycling, and we instantly feel this sense of relief. You take a heavy bag of old clothes, you drop it into one of those metal donation bins in a grocery store parking lot or...
Or you hand it over to a textile recycling center.
Exactly. And you just assume the problem is solved. You did your part. But when you dig into the data we have today, a very stark, very critical line is drawn between recycling and upcycling. They're definitely not synonyms.
No, they're mechanically and economically entirely different. And what's fascinating here is the underlying structural logic. The distinction really lies in the physical treatment of the materials.
So break that down for us. What happens when you recycle a shirt?
Well, when you recycle a garment, the process is inherently destructive. The clothing is completely broken down into its raw components. Those old shirts and pants are fed into massive industrial machines where the fibers are literally shredded, stripped, and reduced back to a foundational state.
Shredded, like physically ripped apart.
Yes, violently pulped. And the issue is the physical staple length of the cotton or wool fiber is shortened during that pulping process, which means the resulting material is significantly weaker.
Oh, wow. So you don't even get the same quality of fabric back.
Not at all. To make it usable again, it often has to be heavily blended with virgin plastics. So recycling textiles is actually a heavy, energy-intensive industrial downgrade.
Okay, so think of it like a completed Lego castle. Recycling is taking that beautiful finished Lego castle, throwing it into an industrial furnace, and melting it all the way back down into a puddle of raw, lower-grade plastic just to mold a few generic blocks.
That is a perfect analogy, actually, yes.
And so upcycling, on the other hand, is taking that exact same Lego castle, keeping its strong foundation, and engineering it into a futuristic spaceship. You aren't destroying the initial structure. You're building upon it.
Precisely. And what's fascinating here is the why. Why is preserving the fabric so crucial? It really comes down to the physical properties of older garments. Clothing manufactured decades ago, or even just high-quality pieces from a few years ago, were often woven from incredibly durable materials.
Right, they just don't make them like they used to, as the saying goes.
It's true, though. Think about the tight twill weave of a vintage denim jacket, or, the dense, long staple cotton of a heavy shirt. The physical architecture of that fabric was engineered to withstand years of friction and washing.
So upcycling preserves that longevity rather than just destroying it in an industrial fretter.
Exactly. It keeps those high-quality, complex materials in circulation, which is what builds a true circular fashion economy.
So it's essentially structural preservation. You skip the massive, energy-intensive breakdown phase entirely and respect the engineering of the fabric itself.
Right, which is huge.
Which brings us to the ripple effect of this movement. Because we understand the physical preservation now, but how does keeping a few old jackets out of a shredder actually move the needle on that massive global waste canyon we visualized at the start?
Well, the environmental metrics are honestly staggering when you look at the supply chain. Producing a single new garment requires an enormous outlay of resources. You have to irrigate the cotton fields, harvest the crop, transport it to a mill.
Run the energy-intensive weaving looms.
Yes, and then plunge the fabric into massive vats of water and chemical dyes. It's a massive process. When you upcycle an existing garment, you bypass that entire primary manufacturing phase. You are instantly conserving thousands of gallons of water per item.
Thousands of gallons for one item.
Yes, just by using what already exists.
And it isn't just the water or the weaving either. We have to look at the carbon footprint tied to the geography of the supply chain. I mean, a brand new fast fashion t-shirt travels the world before it hits your shoulders.
Oh, absolutely. The logistics are wild.
It's woven in one country, shipped across the ocean to be cut and sewn in another, flown to a massive distribution center, and then loaded onto a diesel truck just to reach a retail store or your front porch.
Right. And the greenhouse gas emissions from that transportation web alone are just massive.
But upcycling radically localizes that process. You're taking a garment that already exists in your city, and you're altering it in your city.
Precisely. It amputates the carbon footprint at the source. But you know what I find equally compelling in this landscape is the economic mechanism at play.
Okay, tell me about that, because I'm sure people are wondering about the money side of this.
Well, historically, we've been conditioned to view environmentalism as something that acts as a brake on economic growth. The assumption is that consuming less means less money in the market. Upcycling is doing the exact opposite.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for the listener here. If we're all just endlessly passing around our old sweaters, altering the pants we already own, and aggressively refusing to buy new seasonal wardrobes, doesn't the fashion industry's economy just kind of collapse?
It's a fair question.
Because it feels like we would be draining billions of dollars out of the retail system and causing massive job losses.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes clear that we aren't destroying the industry's capital at all. We are completely decentralizing it.
Decentralizing it. Okay, how so?
The money isn't disappearing from the market, it is shifting. It's moving away from massive overseas fast fashion manufacturing conglomerates, and it's flowing directly into localized economies. The consumer is still spending their fashion budget.
Right. They still want to look good.
Exactly. But rather than spending $50 on a disposable shirt manufactured thousands of miles away, they are spending that $50 on the service of transformation. They are paying a local master tailor. They're paying a neighborhood artisan for custom embroidery.
Ah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. It changes the velocity of money. Instead of your cash instantly leaving your community to sit in a multinational corporation's bank account, it circulates locally.
Right, it stays in your neighborhood.
You pay the tailor buys groceries down the street, and it builds a resilient microeconomy.
It democratizes the fashion economy. As the demand for upcycling services scales up, we are witnessing a massive resurgence of specialized, localized skills. Independent designers, alteration specialists, small upcycling businesses, they're all thriving because they offer a service that simply cannot be replicated by a factory halfway across the world.
It's a total reallocation of resources, which is great.
Yeah.
But let's look at human nature here for a second. We know upcycling is objectively good for the planet. We know the math proves it's great for the local economy. But morality and economics alone do not drive the fashion market.
No, they certainly do not. Aesthetics rule fashion.
Exactly. For this to actually work on a massive global scale, people have to genuinely want to wear these clothes.
Yeah.
The aesthetics have to be undeniable.
Absolutely. If upcycled clothing looks like a messy amateur craft project, the movement fails. The contemporary consumer demands high design.
So what does this look like in practice right now in 2026? Because we're definitely not talking about, iron-on patches to cover a hole in the knee of your jeans. The technical trends dominating the space right now are incredibly sophisticated.
They really are. They require masterful engineering. Take the trend of complex patchwork fashion, for instance. Designers aren't just slapping squares of fabric together.
Right? It's not a quilt.
No, no, they are taking various high-quality remnants, say heavy wools and textured corduroys, and geometrically weaving them together to create highly structured architectural garments. It creates this distinct, visually complex aesthetic that eco-conscious consumers are flocking to because it's visually impossible to mass produce.
That makes it so exclusive. And then there's the denim reinvention space. I've seen them taking old, rigid denim and turning it into sharply tailored blazers, complex pleated skirts, and highly structured luxury bags.
Denim is the ideal raw material for this, and that's because of its twill weave. The cotton yarns are packed so densely, and the diagonal ribbing of the weave gives it an incredible tensile strength.
So it can take a beating from the sewing machine.
Exactly. You can deconstruct a pair of denim jeans, subject the fabric to heavy industrial ironing and resewing, and the fabric won't warp or lose its integrity. We're also seeing a massive surge in vintage revival.
Taking high-quality garments from the 80s or 90s.
Yes, and applying highly contemporary tailoring techniques to modernize the drape and fit.
My favorite technical trend we're seeing is what the industry calls oversized transformations. It isn't just taking a baggy, shapeless vintage suit and like chopping the bottom off to crop it.
No, it's way more technical than that.
Right. A professional tailor is completely re-engineering the garment. They're opening up the armhole, recutting the shoulder slope, and adding complex mathematical darting to take a massive tent of fabric and perfectly map it to the contours of the human body.
It's pure architecture. And there is one organization heavily featured in the current market data that is really driving this entire cultural shift, Apparelizer.
Yes, Apparelizer. Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
They are a brilliant case study in how to bridge the gap between abstract sustainable ideals and actual consumer behavior. They basically operate at the intersection of technology, logistics, and fashion.
Yeah, Apparelizer isn't just a marketing firm putting up billboards about recycling. They have built an entire ecosystem to make upcycling frictionless for the average person. They are running these massive, highly interactive digital campaigns that fundamentally train consumers to look at their old clothes as raw materials.
The platform is ingenious. It really is. They allow users to digitally map their current wardrobe. So you upload a photo of that oversized, outdated blazer sitting in the back of your closet.
The one you haven't worn in 5 years.
Exactly. A Apparelizer system then generates 3 or 4 high-fashion, modernized silhouettes that the blazer could be transformed into. But they don't stop at the visualization, which is the key.
That's the genius part. Once you select a design, the platform automatically routes your garment to a certified master tailor in your specific zip code who specializes in that exact type of structural transformation.
Yes. They handle the logistics, they standardize the pricing, and they guarantee the quality of the craftsmanship. They are actively removing all the friction that used to keep people from altering their clothes.
And by doing so, their messaging changes the cultural paradigm. They're teaching you to identify the hidden, trapped value in the garments you already own.
Right, and the irony of this whole movement is just incredible.
It really is. I mean, a decade ago, upcycling was heavily stigmatized. It was viewed merely as a cost-effective alternative. It was the scrappy DIY thing you did if you could afford to buy new clothes.
Yeah, it was seen as a compromise.
But thanks to this level of professional customization and tech-forward platforms like Apparelizer, the dynamic has completely flipped. Upcycling has evolved into a highly sought-after way to obtain unique, one-of-a-kind, bespoke luxury fashion. And you're getting it at a fraction of the cost of traditional luxury brands.
It truly is the ultimate luxury in 2026. Because in a globalized world of mass production where 100,000 people might purchase and wear the exact same fast fashion sweater, true luxury is wearing a garment that is entirely unique to your body and your stylistic choices.
Nobody else has it.
Exactly. Apparelizer is successfully shifting the culture toward conscious consumerism by leaning heavily into that human desire for individuality. They are pulling focus away from keeping up with homogeneous, mass-produced trends and redirecting that energy toward highly personalized, ethically constructed fashion.
You end up with a completely bespoke piece of clothing. Nobody else in the world will ever have it. You supported a local artisan, and you kept perfectly good fabric out of a landfill. It's just a win across every possible metric.
It really is.
But let's bring this macro global trend directly into the listener's bedroom right now. If I am listening to this and I want to actively participate in this movement